Hey everybody, welcome back to Blogs for Beginners. I got O here from the Discord with me to chat a little bit about how some of this stuff affects beginners. So, welcome O.
Hey,
So yeah, today we
hey,
got
dude.
Doom War, and that's in reference to Doctor Doom coming for Dark Dimension 4, but he's not quite here yet, but he is going to have a campaign that we'll talk about in a little bit. But the first thing is they're introducing one of the next new characters, Baron Zemo. You have any thoughts about Baron Zemo?
I do. I'm very excited about this. One of the things I like about what they've been doing lately is they're taking tunes that we have kind of viewed as useless, and even some that you get as beginners, like Crossbones and Winter Soldiers, and Grenadier, for instance, and they're giving them a home, which I think is great. There's less holes in a roster when you get later on, but Um, I think it affects beginners in that when you start building or feel like you have to progress, you can be less picky about who you put gear into,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know Crossbones you get really early on, and he can be like decent in arena early on. We don't typically recommend him, but now that he might have a team, the resources won't be as much of a waste. So I'm definitely excited what they're doing here, and that's the rumors I've heard in general is that they're going to be trying to kind of give most people a home. So that seems to be, for me, what I think the most about this team is just kind of giving home to
Hmm.
tunes that haven't been super helpful. If all they are is a offensive war team, I wouldn't recommend beginners go super hard on anything. But uh, all these characters are pretty easy to get, so I think this could be a fairly usable team for beginners.
Hmm.
We,
Absolutely.
we won't dive too much into his kit here, but there's some pretty interesting stuff here. And then a lot. Well, one, I just think he's a really cool character. I'm excited about him. So I hope you. I think it looks really cool. So. And then we also got these changes to some characters here. Do you see anything worth pointing out for any of these three characters?
Um, Not necessarily. They all seem pretty specific to Zemo, and as you already kind of got on, it's not really important to build them as a team necessarily. My standpoint is just you don't have to feel bad about putting gear into them to progress through some of these campaigns.
Yeah,
So I think the actual changes themselves they don't really affect beginners all that much. It's more so about the team as a war attack team.
yeah. The only person that really kind of stands out to me is Crossbones, just because you get him so early on and before you even have other villains unlocked. Like, it might be okay to put a
Hmm.
little bit more into him to kind of get to where you want to in the villains campaign. But at the
Right.
same time, the villains campaign is not super important unless
That's
you're
true too.
trying to get to that aim node. But so I don't think this. I agree. I don't think this is too crazy for beginners. Similarly, we got the new campaign coming, the new Doom War campaign. I think this is really cool. I'm glad that they're adding a whole new campaign. It's exciting, and they're gonna have a lot more room to add new people. But Nexus Chapter 8 has to be completed. I mean
Yeah.
that's pretty tough. Have you done that?
No,
Yeah.
I actually just started working on Brotherhood today, and I'm
Okay.
like over 200 days in.
All right.
So
You're level 75.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a very end game campaign. I assume I'll be able to do it at like 430 or 450, something like that, days played. But I mean, the having to complete Nexus is pretty beginner unfriendly, and the traits is pretty unfriendly. I imagine you don't have a lot of this stuff built up very high.
No, I mean even getting to this stuff, there's so much that you have to do that it
Yeah,
shouldn't necessarily be priority for beginners right away, anyways.
right. And the main
Um,
thing here is going to be, Gear Tier 14 stuff, and then Negasonic. So that's going to be the tough part. Is if you're a beginner and want to get Doc Ock, you're going to have to
yeah,
wait
you
a
got
long
one.
time.
That's true.
So that's a little weird. Unless you're willing to spend money or somehow get shards elsewhere, that's going to be Doc Ock's going to be tough to get for beginners.
It really is. I think it's gonna be tough for mid game players to get.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like a late game only.
Hmm. That's tough to get to.
Yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much about this as a beginner, or like you said, even a mid game player. But I do think it's cool,
Hmm.
and hopefully we'll get more campaigns coming. All right, what do you think about the Catalyst Cataclysm event? You gonna do anything with this?
Um, No, I wasn't super excited about it when they did it the first time.
Yeah.
Mainly because I just never farm these nodes. They hardly drop anything to begin with.
Yeah.
So, and I just think in your campaigns you should be focusing primarily, like, first and foremost, you need to be farming towards whatever you're farming towards. And then you're going to need the gear to get them where they need to get to, and you get better drops from, let's say, like you're going after the phosphates for bio.
Right. That's a tough
You
one.
get right. You just get. I think you get better. Those are what your focus should be. These come pretty naturally through all the other orbs that you get through raids and war and things like that. I don't think it's worthwhile to farm these even
Yeah.
during the event.
I think the SBCs, the orange ones, actually have the best drop rate, but beginners don't really need those. So maybe
But
someone
yeah.
who's like kind of pushing towards Dark Dimension 3, like in between Dark Dimension 2 and 3 or something like that.
Hmm.
Maybe I could see farming them. I might even farm them a little bit, but I don't think you need to do the blue or purple ones really. Maybe if you're desperate for purples and like waiting for something like it's your hold up to get into Dark Dimension 2 or something like that, but in general, I
Right.
think their drop rates are pretty low, so I'm not
Mm.
super excited about that event. Not much for this Catalyst Blast event. Just log in and you'll get stuff, so that's really nice. I mean, free stuff's always good, so
Free. Yeah, free stuff's great.
yeah. So I like that one. All right, upcoming blitzes. Looks like we're gonna get some like gear and gold type blitzes, and then we'll get
Uh,
crystal.
Crystal. Yeah. So those first ones, those gear and gold blitzes, when they did those before, the blue gear one is kind of
Yeah,
but the other ones are awesome. I loved when they did them. I'm excited they're back. I love the 1 day blitzes
yeah,
for multiple reasons. One, you get like an overload of blitz credits, which is great.
that is
So you
nice.
can just
Yeah,
start blowing orbs open left and right. Uh, but you get a bunch of those gear that, especially early on, is pretty helpful. So for a beginner, the blue one could be great too.
yeah, that could be helpful. Something I think with this one, there's not really much incentive to push too high on them either. So if you hit the milestones, you're gonna be pretty happy, I think, with
Yeah,
just
absolutely. That's
getting all the
definitely
orbs.
in yeah, in my mind, definitely a milestone and stop kind of blitz on those.
Yeah, I think so too. And then we got Crystal, which that's a pretty good blitz, I think, for people. There's a lot of characters in the arena store now, and you need
Hmm.
her eventually for Ebony Maw.
That is
So
true.
not exactly like a beginner blitz necessarily, but definitely very useful and helps you from not having to spend as many arena credits on her. So, do you think you'll
Yeah, I
do
agree.
much for her?
Anything that shortens a farm is great in my book.
Yeah. Are you trying to work towards Ebony Maw in the future?
I'm ready for him.
Okay, you have Crystal at 5 star
Uh,
already.
yeah, I got to, but
Okay.
hey, gets me however much closer to 6 stars. So,
Right.
like I said, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's nice. Especially there's just a lot of really useful tunes in that store now, so I think it's pretty helpful.
Agreed.
Not like a super hard farm. It's pretty easy to focus her if you want her, but she's really strong too. I took her up to 6 reds, and I'm loving her. I might even max out all of her tier 4s. So I think she's a great character,
Ooh,
especially with Black Bolt though. So not like a crazy blitz for beginners, but it's definitely useful, and the shards will be helpful at some point. So.
agreed.
All right, 4 Asgard. So that actually does that start tonight?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that starts tonight.
So yeah, Sunday Eastern time. This will start. So definitely worth taking advantage of and try and double up on it if you can. Are you still farming these characters?
Hmm. I am. I'm still farming them, and I will be farming them until they're 7 stars. So anytime this comes up, I'm gonna hit it.
Yep, this is a good one. Definitely one of the better ×2 events, I think.
Hmm.
Especially since Hello and it just doubles up for so much. So I think it's
I
just
agree.
I just
I
been
think
farming her
low
the whole time
key.
basically.
Yeah, I think low key these smaller ones that are double events, like this one only has 2 nodes.
Yeah,
I like them a lot more because I feel like I can hit them a lot more. I don't have
right.
to spread myself so thin.
Yeah. And then we also got the Merc ×2 event as well. Are you farming any Mercs?
Passively, I'm passively farming all the mercs. I mean, I'll hit them if they've got some gear that I need, but
Yeah,
I also went pretty heavy into mercs as a beginner. I
that's
don't necessarily suggest it,
yeah. I mean, you were around when Taskmaster came out, so
but yeah,
I
and I
would.
pulled I
Hey,
pulled 6 reds
that's
for him,
right.
so it's
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's a great character. I wouldn't invest much in Mercs if you don't have Taskmaster, and a lot of beginners won't. Um, I probably wouldn't go out of my
Yeah, I
way to
agree.
farm too many of these, like you said. So.
It'll come passively anyway, so it's not a huge deal.
Right. Yeah. And
Um,
I still. What are your thoughts on Payday in general? Do you put much?
the
Priority?
first time rewards are great, but after that, I think it's kind of lackluster a little bit.
Yeah. I don't think it's worth prioritizing all that much personally.
Agreed.
It's nice if you can kind of get there and put resources into somewhat useful tunes to clear the tiers and stuff. But I'm not. I don't think the flash events are that great for the
Yeah,
most part.
definitely not something I think that people should build teams around. I think it's something
Right.
that should come passively anyways.
Yeah. All right, and then the last thing, there's not really anything here except they're just gonna be adding a new tag. So yeah, my first thought with this was once we have a legendary tag, they can start to use it for stuff. So would not be surprised to see like a legendary that requires a certain amount of legendaries or something like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what they do with this. They very rarely do something just because, so I'm sure there's a reason for it.
It is confusing, so there definitely could be just some clarification being made because we definitely get questions in the Discord about like Electra and Crossbones and like
Hmm.
why is it labeled as legendary? I've definitely gotten that before, and I think they kind of cleared it up. Um, I think they were labeled as legendaries before actual legendaries were released. So they were like
Yeah, I think you're right.
legendary events. So it does. I think it's kind of a helpful change. I think it should have, priority happens, but I'll be definitely interested to see if they end up using this for anything.
Yeah, me too. I'm definitely interested to find that out.
Yeah. All right, I think that's all I got for this. Unless there's anything else you want to add.
No, I think that's about it. Like you said, there's really not a ton in here for beginners. There's a lot of exciting stuff, but as far as beginners go, it's just not a ton in here that really affects them.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the more stuff that comes out for endgame players, the more stuff that tends to like get loosened up for beginner players. So kind of be keeping my eye on that. So even just like this catalyst stuff, um,
Yeah,
longtime players really need these SPCs. So when they do that kind of stuff, they also seem to give other stuff. So it's just helpful for newer players too. So we'll kind of be on the
for
lookout
sure.
for that over time. But all right, man, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Tons of fun.
All right, have a good rest of your weekend.
Yeah, you too.